Map method manipulations for Metal King slimes and Platinum King jewels are the fastest way to XP grind in Dragon Quest IX. With the right map seed, you can guarantee preemptives, which give you a free turn to attack the metal slime, mercy support monsters, and most importantly, guarantee fleeing. This guide is split into 6 sections. 1. Basic tips. 2. In-game requirements. 3. RNG calculations. 4. External tools. 5. Creating map methods. And 6. XP grinding with Map Method Metal King Slime and Platinum King Jewel. Let's start off with some basic tips for creating optimal map methods. Tip number 1. Map methods should require as little deftness as possible for preemptive strikes. These map methods are used for leveling up, which means it's likely your party won't have high deftness most of the time. Having too much deftness can also interfere with item drop manipulations you might want to use later on. Keep in mind encountering monsters from behind will require 200 less deftness than normal. But setups from behind for Platinum King jewels and gem slimes can be difficult due to their smaller collision box and fast spawning animation. Tip number 2. Map methods should be created on the earliest possible floor that contains the desired metal slime. Monster ranks increase every 4 floors, so the most optimal floors are B1, B5, B9, and B13. The highest starting monster rank is monster rank 9, which means the earliest floor to encounter Platinum King jewels is B13, and the earliest for gem slimes is B5. Other metal slimes can be as early as B1. Keep in mind you can create map methods on any floor, as long as it's not a no-enemy floor. Tip number 3. Map methods should be as close to stairs as possible. If you spend too much time getting into position for a map method, monsters will start spawning naturally, so you'll have to despawn them by loading a quick save or entering a battle with Whistle. Stairs can also act as better visual aids than random patterns on the floor for getting into the right position to perform map methods. Lastly, let's go over the pros and cons of using the Whistle ability to spawn monsters. The pros are, map methods are significantly easier to create and perform. The cons are, encounters are always from the front, it requires allocating 28 skill points into courage to learn Whistle, and it's harder to make use of gear that recovers HP and MP while walking since you just stand still the whole time. Encountering monsters from the front means the normal required deftness is used and there's a chance to be ambushed. Investing skill points into courage isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that needs to be considered when planning new playthroughs. Most of the gear that recovers your party while walking aren't the easiest things to obtain. You could actually consider this a pro since you won't have to farm these items before XP grinding. On the other hand, you'll need to spend more gold on utility items like magic water and medicinal herbs. In my opinion, the cons aren't deal breakers and don't outweigh the pros, so you should definitely take advantage of maps that can guarantee preemptives with Whistle. To create map methods, we'll need a few things both in-game and externally. There are 4 things you need in-game. 1. A primary map that guarantees preemptives and spawns Metal King slimes or Platinum King jewels in their respective environments and monster ranks. 2. A secondary map that has the corresponding environment and monster rank for the monster spawned by the primary map. 3. The required deftness for preemptives determined by the primary map. And 4. The Whistle ability I mentioned earlier as an alternative method for spawning monsters. It's possible to use a single map if it meets the first 2 requirements, but obtaining one is pretty rare. This video will mainly focus on double map methods, which are much more viable. Let's go into more detail on the first requirement. Like any other map method, this map needs to be the last map of the page it's on. It doesn't have to be in the 8th slot as long as other maps aren't below it. For map methods inside grottos, the primary map can be on any page of the map menu, and doesn't even need to be on the same page as the secondary map, which you'll be following. You'll have more than enough time to flip through the map menu. The contents of the primary map, like monster ranks, depth, boss, environment, name, and level don't matter for double map methods. The only thing that matters is the map seed, which determines monster spawns and the required deftness for preemptives. I'll go over this in more detail in the RNG calculations section. Here are some ways to set a map to the bottom of a page. Press Select to sort differently. Update the status of maps by discovering or clearing them. Discard maps you don't need. Obtain new maps. And lastly, canvas duplicates of the primary map. Now let's go into more detail on the second requirement. This is the map we physically enter to perform map methods, so it needs to contain the desired metal slime. Here are the base quality ranges for each metal slime as a roaming monster. Map methods manipulate roaming monsters that spawn on a grotto floor but not for support monsters that appear once you're in battle. This means combinations of environment and monster ranks where metal slimes only appear as supports won't work, like Platinum King Jewels in Ice Monster rank 12 or Gem Slimes in Water Monster rank 12. You can, however, manipulate support monsters with the B table, but I won't be going over that in this video. You should also try to avoid floors that contain the wandering monster bug, like floors with no enemies or reduced enemy types. Next, let's take a look at how map seeds determine monster spawns and preemptives. Map methods inside grottos use the 35th A-table output of a map seed to spawn monsters and either the 36th or 37th output for preemptives. It's possible to spawn monsters using outputs of other A-table positions, but the 35th position is the most consistent. To calculate the 35th to 37th outputs of a map seed, we first need to understand the 32-bit linear congruential generator used by the A-table. The seed for the A-table is a 32-bit value, or a number from 0 to 4,294,967,295, but in our case it's a map seed, which is a number from 0 to 32,767. To calculate the next seed, multiply the seed by multiplier A and add increment C. The output is the upper 16 bits of the next seed constrained to 15 bits, or a number from 0 to 32,767. Calculating the next seed generates huge numbers, so for languages with weak unsigned integer types, 16-bit math is needed to avoid losing precision. To find the nth output of a seed, the code needs to be looped n times. But in our case, we don't need every output, so we can calculate the nth output directly from the seed by modifying the values for multiplier A and increment C. Here are the values for multiplier A and increment C for the 35th to 37th positions. Now that we know how to calculate the A-table outputs of map seeds, let's take a look at which values spawn metal slimes. These values are used in further calculations involving parameters that depend on each combination of environment and monster rank, but we can keep things simple and work with the 15-bit values. Out of the 32,466 valid map seeds, 4,625 of them can spawn Metal King slimes on the 35th position, and the chance to obtain one of them at any base quality is 9,360 in 65,536, or 14.28%. Out of the 32,466 valid map seeds, 1,817 of them can spawn Platinum King Jewels on the 35th position, and the chance to obtain one of them at any base quality is 3,637 in 65,536, or 5.55%. These odds are much higher than those of finding a Metal King slime-only floor. Calculating preemptive strikes involves three things. 1. The highest deftness among the current vocations of living members in your party. 2. The current A-table value when you make contact with a monster. And 3. Whether you encounter the monster normally or from behind. If you don't have the required deftness for preemptive strikes, the A-table will advance by 1 instead. For map methods inside grottos that spawn monsters with the 35th A-table value, the A-table position when you make contact with a monster should be either 36 or 37. This depends on each grotto, so you'll have to test it yourself. If you use Whistle, the 36th value will always be used. Here's a Lua function that shows how the required deftness for preemptive strikes is calculated from an A-table output. The RAND value is the 36th or 37th A-table output. The encounter value is 2 if you encounter normally, or 12 if you encounter from behind. Preemptives typically require a deftness that's a multiple of 20, but you should make sure to test this yourself. Preemptive strikes that require 0 deftness have an A-table output less than or equal to 655 for normal encounters or 3,932 for encounters from behind. If a normal encounter requires less than or equal to 200 deftness, encountering from behind will require 0 deftness. Preemptive strikes that require 999 deftness have a maximum A-table output of 17,022 for normal encounters and 20,299 for encounters from behind. We'll need external tools to accomplish 3 objectives. 1. Analyze map data and perform RNG calculations. 2. Find hidden map data like map seed and grotto rank. And 3. Monitor RAM values and display useful information while in-game. For the first objective, we can use a spreadsheet editor like Microsoft Excel. To keep things simple, I'll be using Google Sheets in this video. We can use this template I made that has several formulas for calculating map data, including RNG calculations for the 35th to 37th A table outputs. The cells will start populating once you've typed in map seeds, grotto ranks, and location IDs. For the second objective, we can look up our maps using Yab's Grotto search tool, or with the Collapsus bot in the Questers REST Discord server. If you've extracted your save file or play on emulator, you can also quickly look through your maps with the save editor. However, we can use tools for the third objective to find map data even faster. We can use an emulator called Des Mumi Ding Dong Shabalismak, along with Lua scripts to scrape all the map data we need as comma-separated values, which can then be imported to a spreadsheet editor or saved as a CSV file. First, load your Dragon Quest 9 ROM in Des Mumi Ding Dong Shabalismak. Then go to Tools, Lua Scripting, New Lua Script window. You can also assign hotkeys. The Lua console is pretty small by default, so let's resize it. Make sure standard output is checked. Then click on Browse and open DQ9 Scrape Map Data USA v2.lua. Once the script is running, uncheck standard output. This act of checking and unchecking the standard output button will save us some work later. Now we can load either a church save or quick save to print map data in the Lua console. If you've already loaded a save, you can open the map menu or create a quick save. If you discard or obtain new maps, you can click on the restart button to scrape an updated list, but keep in mind the console will say script returned but is still running registered functions if you don't check standard output, but we can remove that later. Now we can copy our map data. First, click anywhere on the console, then select all by hitting Ctrl Home then Ctrl Shift End. Now we can copy with Ctrl C. I'll be using Google Sheets again as the spreadsheet editor. This time, I've created a new sheet. Paste map data in cell A1, then go to Data and select Split Text to Columns, then convert it to a table by hitting Ctrl-Alt-T, or going to Format and selecting Convert to Table. Let's apply some basic formatting. First, hit Ctrl-Shift-E to center everything. I'm also gonna make the font one size smaller. Next, highlight column A, hit Ctrl-Shift right arrow, right-click, select Resize Columns, and then select Fit to Data. Finally, right-click column C, go to View More Column Actions, and select Freeze up to column C. You can also delete any extra rows and columns if you want. Now we can analyze our data. Let's start by creating a filter for maps that spawn metal slimes. Click on the drop-down button in the top row, select Filter Column, and uncheck the dash, and then hit OK. The map Silver Marsh of Bane level 58 spawns Metal King slimes in Water Monster rank 8 and requires 160 deftness for normal encounters on the 37th position. It also contains the corresponding environment and monster rank, so it doesn't require a secondary map for spawning Metal King slimes. The map Bronze Nest of Hurt level 82 spawns Platinum King jewels and Ruins monster rank 12 and requires 80 deftness for normal encounters on the 36th position. However, it doesn't contain the corresponding environment and monster rank, so let's create filters to see if any of our other maps can be used as a secondary map. First, remove the current filter by clicking Remove Filter. Next, click on the filter for type. Click on Clear, and in my case, I'll select Ruins. Finally, click on the filter for monster ranks. In my case, I'll create a filter for all maps that contain monster rank 12. The map Emerald Maze of Gloom level 81 contains Ruins monster rank 12, so a map method can be created on B13 or deeper with this map. Once you've decided on your maps, you can move on to the actual process of creating map methods. I'll be using Bronze Nest of Hurt level 82 and Emerald Maze of Gloom level 81 from earlier as examples for a double map method. We'll need Des Mumi Ding Dong Shabalismak again to monitor the A table in RAM and use save states to work more efficiently. First, these are the addresses for the A table's 32-bit seed. We can use tools like the Memory Viewer and RAM Watch if we just want to tell whether the address is advancing or not, but since we want to tell whether we encounter on the 36th or 37th position, we can take it a step further with Lua scripting. This time let's open DQ9 ATI.lua. To use this script, hit LNR to toggle its visibility, and hit Start to begin tracking your A table position. Make sure to set the primary map to the bottom of any page and have the required deftness among the current vocations of living members in your party. In my case, I'll need at least 80 deftness. Once you're in the secondary map, create a save state right above the floor you want to create a map method on. In my case, I'll create a save state on B12, right by the stairs going down to B13. This save state will be used for restarting the process whenever we want. Now enter the floor and find a position and direction where the A table stops advancing. Remember, we want to be as close to the stairs as possible to keep the setup simple and efficient. If a monster spawns, you can reload the save state from earlier. Once you've found a potential spot, open the map menu and flip to the page with the primary map. Hit Start to begin tracking with the Lua script, then close the map menu. Now create another save state. You can use the save state to see where and which monsters spawn when you move in different directions. If you want to use the 36th A table position for preemptives, you can just whistle at this point. Otherwise, look for setups where you encounter the monster as soon as their hitbox is loaded, like at meaty in fighting games. That way we can be certain we encountered on the 36th or 37th A table position, depending on the grotto. If it doesn't seem like there are any good setups at this spot, start over from the first save state and look for another spot. If everything went correctly, you should be greeted with the preemptive flavor text in battle. Once you've went through a battle, go back to the same position and try the map method again to see if it's consistent. Sometimes setups from entering a floor can be different from coming out of a battle. If you're having trouble spawning monsters after coming out of a battle, you can stick to re-entering the floor each time, like a regular map method. Once you're happy with your map method, make sure to test it on your actual console or emulator of choice, since they can have different loading times. Here are a few useful tips when XP grinding with Map Method Metal King Slime and Platinum King Jewel. 1. Stock up on utility items. 99 medicinal herbs, magic water, holy water, chimera wings, and evacu bells costs 59,499 gold. 2. Use monster spawn control techniques. If your map method is on a deeper floor, you'll want to make sure not to encounter any mobs on the way there, especially if your party is low level. Some techniques for monster spawn control are facing a different direction or turning away every 4-ish seconds, right angle movement, LNR for panning the camera, using the menu to let monsters go through you, loading a quick save to despawn monsters, and, of course, using vanish or holy water to go unnoticed. 3. Unlock useful abilities and traits. You'll want Mercy to let unwanted mobs to flee from battle. Jack's Knack lets you change vocations while in the grotto, which is super handy, but you'll still have to go to All Trades Abbey for revocations. Thunder Thrust with the Hero Spear is the most optimal method of killing Metal King Slimes and Platinum King Jewels. It has a fixed 50% chance to crit or miss, and the Hero Spear recovers 25% of damage dealt. Hatchetman is a similar ability, but the animation is slower. Fandango with the attribute depends a lot more on the ratio between the number of party members and monsters. Here are the required levels your Mercy user must be to let mobs flee from battle. And lastly, here's a table showing how many metal slimes you need to defeat to reach level 99 for different party compositions and whether you have elevating shoes equipped. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or in the Questers Rest Discord server.